I'll have somebody do that here in a bit. And we're going to start our public testimony on SB 199 and SB 200. We're going to go to Craig first, Craig, Alaska, and I'd like all testifiers to please stick to the 2-minute timeline, and I appreciate it. So, Ms. Let's see, Ren Nelson and Craig, are you there?
Yes.
Please put yourself on the records and 2 minutes, please.
Okay. The last call-in that I participated in about the PFD, it was the majority of Alaskans calling in wanting a full statutory PFD. And for that reason, I believe the legislature ought to follow the will of the people. So I say to SB 199, no. SB 200, no. And HB 259, no. We want the PFD as traditionally calculated prior to 2016. Please, no more cutting from the people. The people know how the money will best help them and their families. Don't cut from seniors and the vulnerable. Stop cutting from small businesses and people who need it most. Alaska spends the most per capita on education. More money will solve nothing. Stop sucking more money from Alaska families while we are trying to navigate this COVID recovery and insane inflation. Also, I would not like to see any new taxes and no overdraw from the permanent fund. The PFD and the full statutory is the best way to fairly distribute the PFD. And also, I think we need to be careful what we do with our trawler bycatch. We have thousands of pounds of halibut.
Mr. Nelson, could you keep their comments to the PFD? We'll have a bycatch conversation at a later date.
Okay. Well, I guess that's about all the pertinent things I can think of right now. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, let's see. Brief at ease. We're back on the record. With us today is Senator Stedman, Senator Von Imhoff, Senator Wilson, Senator Wielkowski, Senator Hoffman and Olson are online or watching, doing other state business. So with that, we're going to go to Mr. Mike Smith in Wasilla. Mr. Smith, if you put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, I can make my statement probably in under 2 minutes. I'm wondering when the state of Alaska, when the dividend was set up, the state of Alaska got money, and there was money set up for the people of the state of Alaska. I'm a pretty simple-minded man. That money that was set up for the people of the state of Alaska belongs to the people of the state of Alaska. It's not to be spent to support the state in their expenses. They were given money to do that. Oil is at the highest it's been in quite a while since the last Democratic administration. Why are you even discussing cutting the dividend? Why can't we go back to the original statutory amounts? Why do you feel it's necessary that the only people that are smart enough and know how to spend that money is you guys? Give it to the people of the state of Alaska. Let us pay our bills with it, feed our families, and build our businesses. We know how to spend that money. It'll do far more good being spent in our communities and by ourselves and circulating in our communities and with the money that we need. We know where to spend that money at, and we know how to use it best for what we need to do. You guys are going to be spending it on garbage. When did I suddenly decide that I'm going to start supporting the University of Alaska? When did I decide that I was going to be giving money to ski resorts down in Portage Glacier and supporting them? Nobody does that for my small business. When did I decide that I was going to start donating extra money through the YPFD to Providence? Is that not also a privately owned business? I don't notice you guys jumping up to hand me money in my privately owned business. Quit stealing money from me. You're stealing it from every single citizen in the state of Alaska. Spend the money that you were allocated in the original dividend. Go back to the statutory method for figuring out what we get, and stop playing games. When did you guys suddenly get the authority to decide how to spend money that was set up for the people of the state of Alaska? You didn't. You took it. And then you got some liberal judge to sign on board with you. People of the state of Alaska are getting sick of this. They may not be calling in, but they sure know how to vote.
All right, Ed Martin and Kenai. Mr. Martin, 2 minutes, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Bishop, and other members of the Finance Committee. I've called in numerous times. First off, I am dead against anything but the original formula, statutory formula. Anything that you guys pass and create a budget with is a violation of law. You have failed to carry on the law. Now, each and every one of you have signed on to a budget, I believe. And this doesn't escape what you should be doing. I can tell you right now, it's not government that creates new wealth, all right? It's a private citizen in a capitalist-based society we call America. And I can tell you right now, we will go to the dictatorship like Canada at some point if you folks don't start having some faith in the people of the state of Alaska to develop its resources, because it's not you that develops them. The new wealth is created by individuals. And the old saying, it takes money to make money, well, guess what? The $13,000 hasn't been paid out as of last year, and what you may try to pass this year is holding down all of Alaska. You know, you guys, my dad worked hard in '99 to get a vote of the people. And Click, you should know about the hard work of a union operator. My dad had over 50 years in the operators. And it's passed on now to 4 generations Alaskans. Now, I can tell you right now, my grandson and my great-grandson deserve this dividend check so they can better their lives and better Alaska. So wake up. Vote no on this. Have a little humanity.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to James Squires in rural Deltana. Mr. Squires, 2 minutes, please.
My name is James Squires. I'm from rural Deltana. I'm testifying before you today in opposition to these bills. Why do these bills only have one committee referral, yours, versus others that have to run a gauntlet of other committees for broader support by additional legislators from other parts of the state prior to something so serious as this making it to the floor? For years, Alaskans have testified in opposition to all plans to change the statutory PFD, which you've not been following. Why would we expect you to follow the statute? The trend line drawn across your activity gives Alaskans no assurance that you will pay the PFD you propose. We're in a time of stellar performance from the Permanent Fund. We're in a time of unprecedented federal aid. We're in a time of much higher oil prices, which have been bolstering revenue. We're in a time of huge infrastructure windfall descending down from the federal government, and you not only want to not pay the statutory PFD on the books, nor the PFD back pay that's owed Alaskans. You want to slice and dice PFD, affecting the very Alaskans who could have made best use of these funds as we have worked through the hard times of COVID, winter, and economic slump. This trigger provision in SB 199 looks like blackmail. This is a Republican majority committee. The folks on this committee have been there for a long time and are a party over many years to the high operating budgets which have built this baseline dependency. You folks helped to build this mess and now want to stick it to individual Alaskans to clean it up. Republicans should be for limited government, reduced rules, regulations, and generally getting out of the way in lives of Alaskans as much as possible. I repeat, Republicans should be for limited government, reduced rules, regulations, and generally getting out of the way in lives of Alaskans as much as possible. The full statutory PFD currently on the books works to this end, and aged Alaskans are taking care of themselves with full oil tanks and woodsheds going into winter. You folks are culpable to the hardship being experienced by Alaskans in this unprecedented winter, especially up here in the new District 36. What we see is an appearance of this committee working with the Democrats in the House to eventually finish with a similar 25-75 split that they're proposing over there. I oppose these two bills. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you for that succinct testimony. Philip Prax in Fairbanks. Next. 2 minutes, please. Philip Prax in Fairbanks, can you hear us?
Yes, I can now. Hi, I too want to voice my opposition to both of these bills and put my support against the full statutory PFD formula. Basically, I have watched for over 50 years the state, which has a very poor record on state spending, getting involved in all sorts of different things that don't pan out. Things such as the Delta Barley Project and the grain terminal that went with it, several projects in the Point McKenzie area, the state slaughterhouse, which is just closed. Anyway, those are all examples of things that the state decided to get behind and support. As far as using this money for education, I feel the same way. Basically, throwing money at the issue doesn't seem to be getting the results that are desired. If we look at the federal government, they have quite a track record of doing the same sort of thing, and now they have a $30 trillion deficit. I'd like for people to go figure out how much that means to every taxpayer in the United States. In Fairbanks, we've had bus systems that were run by private industry, and then somebody decided we needed a better bus system. So now we've got a bus system with few riders that wouldn't even be in business if it weren't for federal subsidies. The Alaska Railroad is has the same sort of problems. Whereas if you leave industries alone, like, for instance, the marijuana industry, which is run privately, it seems to be doing quite well. Microbreweries are doing quite well in Alaska. However, that may be about to be changed by the government. I also question why, for instance, if hemp is commercial hemp is a deregulated substance, why do we need state licenses to grow it? I would rather people are allowed to do things and fail on their own than follow past behavior and try and make it work that way.
Mr. Prax, could you wrap up your testimony, please?
Yes, I am pretty much in favor of what the last few people have said. The private sector should be left to their own. The PFD spent by the people to a lot of businesses are the best use of this money, and therefore I support the full statutory formula.
Thank you. Alan Hippler in Anchorage. Alan, can you hear us in 2 minutes, please?
Yes, I can. Thank you, sir. So my name is Alan Hippler from Anchorage. I'd like to thank the committee for its efforts. I do see that a great deal of effort was involved in this, put forward by people who care about Alaska, and I would like to thank those people. But the problem with this legislation is that it appears to be restricting funds to the people, but allowing a growing amount of funding for the government. The only way in which I could support such legislation is if it was jointly introduced with the constitutional spending cap. Otherwise, what we have effectively done is we put a hard cap on the share of the permanent fund that goes to the people, where they would be able to use it for themselves as efficiently as they are able. But we have put no pressure on limiting the growth of government. Let me put it more positively, Mr. Chairman and Senator. I'm happy to support a reduction in the people's share of the wealth. If and only if government can enhance its credibility by imposing a strict spending cap. Otherwise, we run the risk of just feeding a growing monster. If you're a sponsor of this bill, please take this as constructive criticism. To reiterate, I'm happy to support a reduction in the permanent fund dividend, but only in exchange for a robust constitutional spending cap. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to go to George Pierce in Cantulav. George?
Yes, I'm calling from Cantulav, Alaska. Thanks for taking my call. I have lived in here for 35 years and have never seen a sustainable or a balanced budget. New revenue. get rid of the oil taxes and the subsidies. The people own the resources, and you're cutting them out. SB 199, kicking that can down the road again. SB 21, throw it in the trash. Do us all a favor. I oppose both bills. These bills doesn't even mandate that the 25% would even go to the PFD. Remember, you were elected to work for the people, not against the people. The fund's January financial statement, $81 billion. Follow the original formula. It worked for 40 years. Follow the law. Nothing less than a full statutory PFD. Stop the steal. Does it not matter that the PFD cuts have the largest adverse impact on 80% of the Alaskan families? Most cuts fall on the middle class and the poorest, and impacts the economy per dollar of revenues raised. Even if you pass these bills, doesn't mean you will have to honor it. It must be election time because you're taking public testimony on the PFD again. This is nonsense. We told you last time we called in to testify, 90% of the people called in says, leave the PFD alone, but you guys don't listen to our testimony, so why do you even take it, huh? Do your job and stop the steal. Give us our money and stop spending and cut out all the subsidies and the oil taxes. There's revenue right there. Okay, bye.
Mr. Pierce, thank you for your testimony. It's greatly appreciated. Next, we're going to go to Gail Limbaugh-Moore in Soldotna. If you're there with us, can you put yourself on the record 2 minutes, please?
Yes, I'm Gail Limbaugh-Moore here in Soldotna. I do not support SB 200, and I support the 50-50 POMV split as it stands now. I don't understand why you're not following the law. And it's been that way for eons, and it seems like we call in and we call in, and you have people testify. And when will somebody do something to change this so that we're not spending this kind of time on this? It's just every year we do the same thing, and that concludes my testimony. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to Sheila. I believe it's... I'm not even going to say the last name. Sheila, if you're there in Wasilla, can you give us your...
I sure can. My name is Sheila Schatz, S-C-H-A-T-Z, Schatz. I'm from Wasilla, Alaska. I've been a homeowner in Alaska 40 years. Homeschooled my son, who is now 30 years old, because the schools failed back then. Now they're absolutely horrendous. A pathetic joke. We're not spending more money on any school issues. No, you guys had your chance to fix that. I just ran up the stairs. So, I've been waiting to talk to you guys again. 5-6 years now. Alaska Legislators, if you really are there, you ask for our votes. You beg for our votes. And then you threw us to the side. Took the money and put us toward special interests that we don't need. Not at all. 6,000 special interest groups. And you cut our PFD. I demand the full PFD. Full PFD. I want a $14,000 check. I also want this year's full PFD. You know, it's interesting. You give us 2 minutes. We give you 3 special sessions, and then you demand a 4th special session, and you get nothing done. And that costs us money. But you won't give us ours? We need our PFD. We demand it. We're voting you out when you vote against us, because we know now that you are against us. The school systems, they failed our children. We get more money for our students than any other state. No, we're not doing this. You don't get our money. No to SB 199. No to SB 200. No to HB 259. No, We want our PFD as traditionally calculated prior to 2016.
Thank
We are
you
tired
for
of you
your
failing your
testimony.
job.
Next, we're going to go to Alan Ramos in Wasilla. Alan?
Hey, how are you doing this afternoon? My name is Alan Ramos, and I live in Wasilla. I'm opposed to both of these bills for the simple reason that it's like all we're doing is going after the PFD, and it's a whole plan. You had a working group that came up with some really good ideas, and it's like we've just thrown all of them in the garbage can. The way I understand it is the best way it was ever spoken was that the dividend gets first draw, and that's the way it should be. Now, if we have to go to a 50-50 plan, so be it. But until we have a whole plan, I don't think we should be passing any bills pertaining to the monetary value of the dividend. You know, I have sat here and I've listened to some people in your committee say that the state of Alaska never took their share out of the earnings reserve. Well, the reason you didn't take the share was because you had it very easily. You had a whole pot of money there with the CBR, and we can already see what the CBR has done. So how many years will it be like that when the earnings reserve account looks the same way? I just think that if you're you should just go back to where the dividend gets the first draw, and if you have to come up with taxes, let everybody pay taxes, and maybe then they'll become more entertained in what the budget looks like. And, you know, good luck to you guys. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Testimony. We're going to go to Ron Johnson in Fairbanks. Ron, are you there? In 2 minutes, please.
Yes, click I am. Ron Johnson, Fairbanks, Alaska. Been in Alaska over 40 years, and I support the Senate Bills 199, 200. I think it's about time we get away from the statutory PFD mindset, in part because the tenets under which the statutory PFD were developed no longer apply. Then none of our government was funded by the Permanent Fund. We could have given all of the Permanent Fund earnings to Alaskans as PFDs. The situation is completely different today, where most of our government is funded by the 5% POMV draw. And I like the idea of the Senate trying to get us away from a stalemate on 50-50 or bust. The governor has proposed funding a 50-50 split of the 5% POMV by an ad hoc draw. I'm totally against ad hoc draws because that's stealing the seed corn for our children and their children. So this is a good attempt to try to get away from the stalemate that's been with us the last several years, and I hope that we make progress on moving away again from the statutory PFD and trying to give people money but not go broke doing it. And I do not agree with the idea that we have to give the money to the people first. 5% POMV draw paying for state government is giving money to the people, getting our roads plowed, much of our schools paid for, so the people already are getting lots of money out of the Permanent Fund, even if it doesn't go to them directly as PFDs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ron, for your testimony. Next, we're going to go to Palmer, Mr. Mike Coons. 2 minutes, please.
Yes, this is Mike Coons. I'm calling from Palmer, speaking for myself. First of all, whatever happened to the weeks of that working group last year? Oh, that's right. It was designed to be smoke and mirrors and a failure. This is a Senate finance. Both of these bills are Senate finance bills. Senator Wilkie, you are on board with this after being a champion for the PFD. Senator Wilson, how can you look in the eyes of your Alaskan natives while supporting this theft? Senator Wilson, the mighty Matsu, bastion of the conservatives, you okay with this theft? Again, since this is a Senate finance bill, both of these, I can only then call all of you thieves of the people of the state of Alaska. And I make no mistake that November 2nd, we will be voting for a constitutional convention. We'll win that constitutional convention. And we kick you guys out after November 2nd. We're going to have a constitutional convention that is going to constitutionalize the PFD, and you guys will never be ever get the touch again. And we're not going to worry about a statute. It's going to be in the Constitution. And I know that Gary Stevens doesn't like that. I don't care. I don't give a damn. I really don't care if Stedman like it, that we're going to have a constitutional convention. It's coming. And when it comes, you're not going to like the outcome because we're taking this state back. Have a good day.
Thank you for your testimonies. Next, we're going to go to Bert Halfling in Big Lake. Bert, if you can hear us, 2 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Bert Hufftelling. I represent myself, my child, and about 400,000 other people that listen to what I like to say. Currently, I see you guys doing nothing more than attempting to do the same thing you've done for the last 6 years, which is subvert the actual statutory PFD law so that it funds government, and you may or may not pay us a dividend based upon what your feelings of government is this current year. You had 4 special sessions last year to address this issue, and not once did you even tackle it face on or head on. In fact, the last special session, the very last one you had, was supposed to be directly dealing with this in the Senate. But did you have even a single committee meeting during the entire 30-day last special session? Not one. You had a bill sitting there, SJR 6, that was a 50-50 split. Most of Alaska was actually on board with that. Did you even bring it up? Nope. Where was it parked at? It was sitting at the Senate committee, you guys. You didn't bother to bring it up. Instead, you just sat on your hands and did nothing. Now you want us to accept a 25-75 split that still has the may language or may not pay us a PFD? This is ridiculous. What do you think we are, fools? That money belongs to Alaskan. We gave up our mineral rights underneath the ground to become the 49 states of the United States of America. We did not give up our rights to the ownership of the royalties or anything else that it comes out of the ground or any of the mineral resources that was created and supposed to be protected under the permanent fund dividend. What part of permanent do you not understand? Stop the theft. You could easily cut the budget by first following the SBA, the student base allocation, and it would be by a 10% cut because you have 10% less students going to school this past current year than you currently had in when this budget was made. That's $130 million right there. How about getting rid of the oil tax credits? That's almost $800 to $1 billion a year right there.
So could you wrap up your testimony, please?
Certainly. Between the two, you guys could easily have all of your budget shortfalls taken care of. And the oil revenue that has been made this year, your budget, the revenue that you have in taxes is more than what you need to cover this entire year's budget without touching 1 red cent of our Alaskans' owned permanent fund dividend.
Mr. Greg Weaver and the Matsu. Mr. Weaver, can you identify yourself for the record in 2 minutes, please? Thank you.
51-year-old, born and raised Alaska, on the road system, just like the capital should be. I've traveled extensively throughout Alaska for work and hunting and fishing, been to basically every corner of the state. And I am beyond frustrated. I'm disgusted with these 2 bills and the lack of progress that continues with every single special session where myself and the previous testifiers had to watch people in press suits leaning back in their overstuffed chairs at $300+ a day in per diem that was voted down. That personally shows where your priorities are at. The capital needs to be on the road system. I'm on the verge of just saying shame to all of you. This has been more than frustrating watching this for years. If you want to do something with the dividend, put a spending cap on it, 5%, like one of the previous guys said. If you really want to do something, quit throwing it at people as soon as they get off the airport in Anchorage with their 5 kids and make them wait at least 4 years before they're even eligible for a dividend. Real people, real Alaskans use this money for snow tires when they have to commute more than an hour each way to work, to an actual job. They use it to fill their oil tanks when they don't have natural gas in their area. They use it to buy snow plows and pay people to plow their driveways and their roads that are not up to borough or community specs. And I just am basically trying to say, stop trying to look busy and actually get something done. It's frustrating to see all these boards and commissions with the same people from outlying fringes of Alaska making decisions that affect the nucleus or the center of the state, which is Anchorage and the Valley and even Fairbanks. When the human body gets frostbite, the blood goes to the center. The fingertips and the toes are the first to freeze. And nobody's forcing anybody to live in Sitka or Manilchik or anywhere out in the bush. Anyone's welcome to come to town and get a job and be more part of the problem or the solution than the problem.
Wrap up your testimony,
on top of
please.
that is, please rest in peace, Jay Hammond, and God bless your soul, because he'd be crying if he was alive today.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to go to Joel Sigmund in Wasilla. Joel, if you're there, put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Yes, this is Joel Sigmund. I'm calling on behalf of myself and everybody else in the state of Alaska. I disagree with both these bills. You guys have been stealing from us for years. How would you guys like it if we took 75% of your everything you got and left you with only 25%, and you never got a check afterwards? No check for doing what you're doing. You have to do it for free, like it was wrote up to be. When they first started politics, you had that volunteered, and then you had a secondary job to pay your wages. Now, if you got cut off of everything except 25% one time and that's it, how would you like it? You wouldn't be able to make it. I use mine to pay my mortgage. I've been here 8 years in my house that I built, and I've been up there in Alaska all my life, and you guys are sitting there just screwing us over every way you can. We vote something. We voted to have the capital moved twice, and it was voted to do it. We got the land in Willow to do it, and the electricity and everything's ran there. It's all set up. But no, you guys want to keep it in Juneau to where we can't confront you guys, because it's easier to hide where no one can get to you than it is to be here where everybody in Alaska can get to you and see you. It is time for you guys to move here. Quit stealing from us, because I depend on it. I will lose my home and everything if you guys keep taking our property, our permanent fund, because it's unconstitutional. You guys are stealing. You belong in prison for stealing. Anybody that's for this, taking it from people. You guys need to leave it alone and let the people have it like it was wrote up to be permanent fund for the people, not the government. It is not the government's money. It is the people's money. Quit stealing from us. We've been getting little teeny checks every...
Thank you for your testimony, Joel. We're going to go next to Amanda Peary in Soldotna.
Yes, thank you. Amanda Perry out of Soldotna. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my daughter. I do not support SB 200. I support a 50-50 POMZ split as it stands now. And thank you. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Sally Johnson in Palmer. I believe 2 minutes, please.
Hi, this is Johnson. Can you hear me?
Barely. Maybe speak.
I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm hearing all kinds of conversations. I do not approve of your cutting of the PFD at all. It is not your money to cut. You guys need to figure out how to cut your budget without touching the people's PFD. I am retired, and that helps me out for the rest of the year, and for the last 4 or 5 years, you've been screwing me. I do believe that we do need to have a constitutional convention and get you guys out of there. You guys are not listening to the people who put you in there, and that is a sin.
Does that conclude your testimony? Thank you. All right. Next, we're going to go to Mr. Michael Gerhardt in Wasilla. Mr. Gerhardt, 2 minutes.
Yes, my name is Michael Gerhardt from Wasilla. My late brother, Lazy Mountain Jim, he followed the PFD from the very beginning. And back in the 1990s, what he did was he called up every year in June to get the deposit figure, what it's supposed to be. 5 to 6 months later, when the money got put in the account, he found billions missing. by 2011, $27.3 billion has been stolen. Now, he spent 10 years questioning over half of our state legislatures about this. There was only 6 of them that promised him answers. One of them was Lyman Hoffman. Jim never got an answer. Now, since then, I've been following this fight. I've spoken out. I've been to rallies. I've spoken to the legislatures, and it falls on deaf ears a lot of times. The best legislatures we have come from the Matsu Valley. They're fighting for us. But the other legislatures in the majority have squashed our voice. And it's about time you guys start listening to us, because my personal opinion is I'm going to vote for a constitutional convention, and all of the PFD-thieving legislatures should be ostracized in this state. I'm against SB 199 and SB 200. We should be getting our full PFD from the original plan, and it should stay that way. Our roads don't get plowed properly. I know roads that used to be plowed for 18 and a half years. They don't even get done now. Our school system, it's garbage. We've got some of the stupidest people in our education system. We're spending all this money on administration. Look at their salaries. You guys don't want to cut spending, but you need to. And if you don't, we need a constitutional convention.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to go to Barbara Tyndale in North Pole. Barbara, if you can hear us, 2 minutes, please.
Yes. My name is Barbara Tyndall. I live in North Pole, Alaska, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I am speaking in opposition to SB 199, SB 200, for a variety of reasons, and I can hear the frustration of people coming through the line here today. Alaskans are, I'm just seeing that we're paying way more for groceries. We're paying way more for our heating fuel, and up here in the interior, that's pretty critical. Everything is going up, and the cost of government is going up. And I agree with the person who spoke before me that our schools are not coming forth. More and more money goes to schools. I taught for 20 years in a private Christian school, and now they want more money to teach kids to read, and I just am flabbergasted. I'm saying we taught all of our kids to read. It's not difficult to teach a child to read when they're 5 and 6 years old. You don't have to wait till they're 3rd and 4th grade. So we just don't see that government is really managing the funds well. And the people of Alaska really do have some needs, and I believe they should be the ones who choose how that money is spent. And what I'm looking at here is a formula graphic that says since 2016 to 2021, we are owed $13,594. That's how much money has been taken from the people of Alaska. And because of these reasons, I support the full statutory formula for the PFD. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to go to Sherman, Leffler, and Palmer. Is that accurate? In 2 minutes, please.
Hello, my name is Sherman Leiper from Palmer, Alaska, and I am opposed to Senate Bill 199 and 200. I'm in favor of the statutory dividend that worked forever, or at least 40 years. That's the end of my testimony.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to, I believe it is Cyrus Cooper and Healy. 2 minutes, please.
Yes, good afternoon. First and foremost, I disagree. This is Cyrus Cooper, just for the record. I disagree wholeheartedly with anything under SB 199 or connected with the 2 bills that you're trying to push through. What we have is a self-aggrandizement issue with the people that are on the Senate committee. And by that I mean you are ignoring all of the testimony that came from 2019 to present. I've heard that people are no longer interested in getting a PFD that is either statutory or 50-50 because you haven't heard a lot of these people on the phone this year. I will tell you that you are mistaken, that people are tired of being ignored. That's the real problem here, because you are ignoring your constituents, and you have consistently shown that. I have to ask you, where did you go with all the information that has been provided over the preceding years? Where are the papers showing all of the proof that was provided by the citizens you portend to represent? it's conveniently ignored for a new idea. I have to ask why. Again, it's a distraction, because that's what you do. When you don't get your way, you distract. The people of the state have suffered long and hard under COVID. And what have you guys come up with to help us get more of something that was statutorily allowed? Because, well, you're the legislature, you can do that. I've heard some of your peers say they cannot fathom the greed. Well, I will tell you, if you look in the mirror, you can fathom it then, because that's the problem. You think it's your money, and you are wrong. I'm asking you to prioritize state funding, because right now, anybody can get funding, and then there's rat holes, and it's inappropriately spent. You people have no idea where the money goes, because you don't look into any of the fraud, waste, and abuse. Why is that?
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Cooper. Next, we're going to go to Quinnahock and Mr. Willie Keppel. Is that right?
Thank you.
2 minutes, please.
Yes, my name's Willie Keppel. I'm in Quinnahock. I'm just upset that after all of the special sessions last year, we're not seeing anything or hearing anything from the work sessions. And I personally thought that there was a couple of really important things that came out of the work session. The first and foremost important thing I heard was Senator Hoffman say the legislature doesn't have to follow the law. And that was like one day after when I listened to all these sessions through my cell phone clear out here. Your own folks had an economist come in saying how the PFD statutory formula was working. That economist said the statutory formula was working fine before, it was working fine now, it would work fine into the foreseeable future. And yet, nothing, absolutely nothing out of that whole wasted, what was it, 3 months last year, a special session? Nothing. And here we are, 199 and 200. Well, the greed of it all, I think, comes to you folks, not us folks out here. So I'm opposed to 199 and 200. Thank you for working on a national holiday, and have a nice day.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to go to Diana Mcrae and Cantulav.
Telephone number is 907-844-586-9085.
Ms. Mcrae, can you hear us?
Hi, this is Diane Mcrae, and I'm calling to testify because I find it disgusting that you are taking you want to take 75% of the PFD. So much of the money is wasted. It's not needed in your hands. It's needed in our hands. We know what we need, and fewer people would be on the dole and taking money and having to use government services if they had the money. But it's a way to take the money from the people and justify growing government. This is disgusting. I need this money. Other people need this money. Get your hands off of it and learn to live like a regular citizen in government where you have to cut corners to make it. Thank you very much, and I'm testifying for my family. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Susan Dobson, Ketchikan, put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, hello. My name is Susan Dobson, Ketchikan, Alaska. I am actually very upset, especially with some of the senators sitting in that room. I'm watching you. You have been confiscating the Alaskans' PFD, statutory formula. You stole it out of the ERA. It's time to end this now. Put it in the Constitution. You have spent every dime of Alaskan savings for lobbyists there in Juneau. Move it to the road system. We're done. And just remember, 2020, we got a lot of you voted out, and we're going to be working on getting the rest of you. And I'm speaking not only for myself, but everybody in my Patriot groups. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Justin Hooper in Anchorage, 2 minutes, please.
Hi, I'm originally from Tananalund, but I moved here to Anchorage trying to survive. And it's been ongoing too long. I've never done this before, but you know, I've watched Tiffany and I watched Hoffman out there in Bethel and the Cusco equipment. I haven't really seen any kind of change. I haven't really seen anything but a lot of jobs being taken away and a lot of laws being created and making it really hard for us. I'm Yupik too, but I think it's time that a lot of people in the rural villages need to stand up and taking their voice where they need to be, because I've never seen Hoffman out there do nothing. I've never seen him publicly. I've lived in Bethel for like 10 years, and you know, it's just coming to a point where I have to move around to make it easier for me and my family. But with Joe Biden's inflation, this is getting too much. You know, we have to suffer for foreign companies that are you know, being bought out here left and right by, you know, being owned by foreign companies. And a lot of people that are in the Democrat system are supporting that area where they're forgetting about the Alaska people, especially the natives that are around here. So I don't, you know, that's my part, and I'd like to see a change. And I see what Dunleavy's trying to do to help out, make sure families get something on their table rather than having to go fill out 150,000 pages for something to depend on somebody else. We shouldn't be dependent. We're independent people. So I think it's time to, you know, these people that are on the big boards need to start recognizing that people are watching the decisions that the decisions that you get to make for the future of our people. You know, it matters.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Hooper. Next, we're going to go to Mike Bridge in Kenai. Mike, can you hear us? And put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Hello?
Mike Bridge, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Could you put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm calling from Kenai. You know, I'd kind of like to bring the temperature down a little bit here. I actually I'm a lifelong Alaskan, born in 56, territorial days. I appreciate every one of you guys' public service. I don't like the tone of a lot of these callers. Trust me, I'm retired. I would like a permanent fund like anybody else, but I mean, Mr. Bishop, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Wilikowski, Hoffman, you're all good men. I don't like the whole, like, you know, people steal. Nobody's stealing money. And one point I want to make, we're talking about $10 a day, right? 365 days a year times 10 is about 3,600. I've never seen people up in arms over, like, you can't buy breakfast for that, like a pack of cigarettes. That's what we're talking about. And people calling up so angry. And I'll leave it at that. I don't know, you know, I trust the government, and I appreciate you guys, and I hate to see people this angry over basically change. You know what I mean? $5 a day. But I know people who own businesses, wealthy people. They're almost probably going to fight me tonight if I went out and had a drink. Like, well, I heard you call, but man, it's really, you know, like, that's life-changing, $10 a day. Thank you very much for listening to me, sir.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to go to Sunshine Cantulav in Homer. Sunshine, if you can hear us, 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, thank you. I received a call about this session. Thank you for giving me this time. I just want to say I have a big heart for Alaska and the people. And the PFD was set up for the people of Alaska. I have sent an email to Peter Mcrae. I've talked to Sarah Vance about this issue. And I just wanted to voice that heating costs in Alaska are very high. There's families struggling to heat their homes. Winter is very hard, and prices going up on gas, food, and rent. And there's got to be accountability. We have to have a budget and cut the spending. I think that the PFD should not be messed with. and to take 75% of the PFD would affect many families with children and trying to put food on the table and heat their homes. So I am against this. I just want to say that I don't want to see this happen to Alaskans that live here. It's already hard enough. It's already a struggle. It's cold here. Please don't pass this legislation because it's going to be very hard on lots of people in Alaska. Thank you. My phone number is 907-738-4410. I appreciate this time. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Linda Branson in Houston. Linda, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
2 minutes, please.
All right, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to call in once again. I've called in several times in emails. Here is the problem that I have with what's going on here. I received the very first permanent fund dividend. I received a letter that told me I was in ownership of the royalties, period. Year after year, I've watched, year after year since its inception, politicians tried to steal the permanent fund dividend. Well, in 2016, that's exactly what happened, based on wording and what the Alaskan people thought it was. I see one senator at the table, Senator Wielechowski, who is the only one who has defended Alaskans and the permanent fund dividend. I'm against both these bills, Senate Bill 199 and Senate Bill 200, and shame on you. Just shame on all of you. Are you Alaskans? I mean, look at our schools. Look at our children. They can't even read, and you want us to give them more money. Start thinking about Alaskans and give us our dang money. It's our money. It was always set up to be our money until the politicians decided that they wanted to take it because, geez, there's a big pile of money there, right? Okay. Start doing your jobs. Follow the law.
Thank you for your testimony. Tananalund, Wasilla, please put yourself on the record, and if I mispronounced your name, I apologize.
No problems. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tonda Lundeen, and I am from Wasilla. I appreciate this time to speak today. And yes, I do agree. I do not agree with the gentleman that said that this is not stealing, because it is. If you look at the original laws and the original writing for the Alaska PFD is for the people. You guys are literally taking what does not belong to you. The gentleman that said, how would you like it if you were expecting a certain paycheck and you got half of that? You wouldn't like it. That they're taking money that is rightfully yours. These come from the rewards from the PFD that belong to the people. We have people that depend on that money at the end of the year to get through the end of the year. We live in Alaska. Times in Alaska are very hard. They're very rushed, and we need that money. I do not agree with the things that you guys have right now, the proposals that you guys are bringing on. I disagree with them. I think it's unconstitutional and unfair, and I think you guys need to start doing your jobs before you all get voted out. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and have a very blessed afternoon.
Thank you for your testimony. We're going to go to Healy. Mr. Cooper in Healy, if you can hear us, please put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Yes, sir. This is Lee Cooper representing disabled veterans of Denali Borough, of which I am one. And I would just like to bring reference to some of the things that have been said. First and foremost, my hat's off to you that are working diligently and proving that you're trying to do something positive. But that being said, coming up with new ways to divert attention from a problem that you haven't solved in more than 6 years is not helpful. By that I mean you have programs out here that have been underfunded from the outset, and you've done nothing to resolve that. You've had good economists that you've fired that were advising you ways to solve problems with the monies you had by essentially stopping the rat holing of government funds and the various agencies throughout the state, and you've ignored them. So again, when you start asking why is there a problem, look in the mirror, because you're the problem. You don't take the advice you're given. You claim you need to hear from constituents. You claim you need to hear from professionals that are in the know. The only people that you listen to are you, the people in that room, and the people that control your political careers. And we all know it. We can see it. the ambivalence is obvious. And you need to stop it. I'm asking you, one Alaskan to another, stop diverting attention and start focusing on the real problem. Because disabled veterans do suffer when they don't get these checks because many of them are in wheelchairs. And again, I don't need a sad story to tell you. I'm telling you this is average events that affect many people in the bush and along the road system. But then again, being in Juneau, you really wouldn't know that now, would you? Because you don't come here. You need to change it. You need to stick to what is right and quit making up things to divert attention. Again, representing disabled veterans, and there's quite a few of us that have long memories and that will vote. Suggest you remember that.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Allison Mo in Anchorage. Allison, put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, my name is Allison Mo. I'm from Anchorage. I'm calling representing myself today because I'm opposed to SB 199 and 200. I am a parent. I'm also a primary care healthcare provider. And I support maintaining the full statutory formula because this money belongs to everyday Alaskans. Cutting the PFD is like putting an extra tax on individual Alaskans, a tax that is highest for those who are lowest income and families with children and other dependents. I am disturbed that you seem to have no problem adding this tax to these Alaskans, all the while shoveling every tax break that can be thought of towards the oil industry. Altering the PFD now is like kicking Alaskan families while they are down after the past 2 years. And I'm strongly against it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Tom Maddie in Lazy Mountain. Mr. Maddie, if you can hear us, 2 minutes, please.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you loud and clear.
Well, I know a lot of people up here on Lazy Mountain, and every one of them I talk to says, you guys shouldn't be taking this money from us. It was supposed to be, forever, permanent. And I think we should all unite somehow and get you guys out of Juneau. Because you guys are a bunch of thieves. That's what I think. Have a good one. Look in the mirror. Losers.
Thank you. Mike Swain in Anchorage. Mike Swain, can you hear us? 2 minutes, please.
Hello. Thanks a lot for having me on. I hope my luck holds up. I've called before committee meetings and the situation with you getting your budget on equal footing. And I hope you get the nose up on that thing. Some people's using the analogy to ship sinking, others using the airplanes coming down. I prefer the airplane and keeping the nose up. But 25% of the POMV is pretty reasonable. And I can't argue with the legislators wanting their powers, but the two statutes are different. The earnings formula is an earnings formula. The POMV is budgetary. It's for the budget. And I don't think you have to change anything from 1982. Just put a pointer there that points to SB 26 and put your four little formula in there and have it that. If you can't pay it, you can't pay it. At least we got something to look forward to, just like you should. And I appreciate you having me have this telephone number up on the screen. It actually works.
All right. Well,
thanks a lot.
Thank you for your testimony. Julie Moore in Soldotna. Julie, if you can hear us, can you put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please?
Yes. I am against the SB 199 and 200 and the thieving of the PFD. The PFD worked really well before 2016, and politicians dive into it. There is no excuse to keep taking the PFD more and more from the people. You guys need to balance the budget and quit stealing from the Alaska people.
Can you turn your radio down? And we're getting a lot of backfeed. We're having trouble hearing your testimony.
Yes, I'm totally against these bills that steal the PFD money. To work really well before 2016, there's no reason for the politicians to steal it for their piggy banks and blow the government.
All right. Thank you for your testimony, Julie. We're going to go to Magnus Sampson in Dillingham. Magnus Sampson, Dillingham, 2 minutes, please.
Hey, thanks for taking my phone call here. Well, it seems like there's just a couple couple of people that have best interest in this permanent fund dividend, and it seems like it's senators from Sitka and North Pole. They're acting like I don't know. You guys own the money and it's in your back pocket. You guys must have fat wallets if you guys can talk like that. But anyway, the permanent fund dividend, it belongs to the people. Now, we've been calling and calling and calling for the past how many years now? Do you guys listen? Or you guys got cotton swabs in your ears? Bishop, I'd like to know. All right, well, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you
guys
for
can
your testimony.
wrap
Next,
up with a
we're
little
going to
money.
Lindsay Rhodes in Kenai. Lindsay?
Yeah, hi. My name is Lindsay Rhodes. I represent myself in Kenai, Alaska, and I'm calling to say that I oppose SB 199 and 200. I do suppose the full statutory PFD or Governor Dunleavy's. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Jeffrey Ackerman in Kenai. Mr. Ackerman, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me fine?
We can. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to say I got 6 cents. And being a Nashville-born Alaskan and my family fighting for this state, being born and raised here, coming from a long line of indigenous Alaskans, also Cherokee, Indian, what's going on. I'm in big question of where all this money is going from our marijuana tax. We have $80+ billion in profit in the stock markets in our oil revenue, and we have not even 750,000 people that are residents of Alaska. Some of them snowbirds, whatever, but we're only getting a percentage of the 1% of the profits from our oil revenue. I haven't been seeing DOT out scraping our roads, sanding our roads. They're doing it when they don't even need to. I've seen our schools go to garbage in the past 30 years, coming from a rural area and then moving to the Kenai Peninsula. I was 3 and 4 years ahead of the curriculum. And this is a bunch of nonsense. I don't think that any of these politicians, all of our public servants, i.e. government officials, everyone should be making a larger salary annually than the average American citizen makes. It's just disgusting what I've seen in my life and what's going on right now, and all the CRTs, our PFDs. Where is all of our money going? We got all this COVID relief funds, supposedly. We got inflation going crazy. This is a steal of our Alaskan money. I know a lot of people move here under the circumstances that, they pay you to live in this state. No, that's garbage. You need to educate yourself, folks, out there, and I really am disgusted with all of our public servants ruling our lives, telling us what we can and can't do, and raping us.
Thank you for your testimony. We're going to go to Jeremiah Hamrick in Wasilla. Jeremiah, if you can hear us, put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Hello, I'm Jeremiah Hamrick from Wasilla, Alaska, and I wanted to thank you all for your service. I know it's not always easy, and a lot of frustrated people. I would like to say my support for what the governor's proposed concerning the PFD. I think a lot of people are upset about it getting stolen. I mean, it's not about the money for me, although it is nice. It's more about smaller government and the continual trying to take away the PFD. So I just hope you guys, I think a lot of people think the same thing, that they're just frustrated that it's getting taken away. And like one gentleman said, it's not much, but for it to be taken year after year for a bigger government, is just not what the people want, and not what my family wants. And again, I thank you for your service, and that's all I have. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Next, we're going to go to Kelly Nash in Fairbanks, Interior Patriots. Kelly Nash, 2 minutes, please.
Hi, thank you. I would say I want to tell all the elected officials, that I understand where they're at, but, I only know where a few are at. I know that there's also a few that are, higher up, that they are literally destroying our state. We have testified, I don't know how many times, about this dividend. It shouldn't even be happening. But the path to destroy Alaska is clear now, and I honestly believe that it doesn't matter how many times we testify. You guys are going to do what you want anyway. You don't care about your constituents. You don't care about the babies and the families and us trying to stay and survive and live in this great state, once great state, that is now, I don't believe, great anymore. But I just hope that at some point in your lives, the ones that are continuing to destroy our state, I hope you have severe regret. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for that testimony. Next, we're going to go to Richard Toltada in Anchorage. Richard, if you can hear us, 2 minutes, please.
Yes, my name is Richard Tolada, and I'm saying no on SB 199 and SB 200, and I have a problem even getting that dividend because you click on questions on the Department of Revenue's application, and then it comes up wrong answer. And I've been here for 40 years, and I only have gotten a couple of dividends, and you owe us $13,000. How about if we just go down to the Department of Revenue and they hand us all our $13,000, and guess what? The economy will perk up like you never imagined. We could just bust the whole thing up and give everyone $1 million. There's 600 and so many thousand people in Alaska times $1 million, and we're all millionaires. And guess what the economy will be then? It'll be unbelievable. But you want a bigger government, and I want a bigger check. I want more money. That will, and the coal industry money. Where's all that money in my permanent fund? Where's the fishing money in my permanent fund? All these natural resources are for the people. Where's all that money that should be put in the permanent fund for the people of this state to make them better?
Thank you, Richard. Next, we're going to Mr. Greg Collins in Homer. Mr. Collins in Homer, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Please put
Hey, Greg Collins, Homer, Alaska. I'm calling to say that this 75-25 split is totally ridiculous. You guys need to get back. The governor talked about a 50-50 plan. I don't like it. I would prefer the whole PFD as it was originally drawn up. But the 75-25, this is just pure out-and-out theft, and it's got to stop. And there's a few legislators that seem to think that they know how to spend my money better than I do, but I don't agree with that. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on this, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get rid of the 75-25 idea. It's totally out of line.
Thank you. Dustin Aronson in Kenai. Dustin, please put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Dustin Aronson. I'm calling from Kenai. I just wanted to point a few things out. I crunched some numbers here on basically the argument that Alaska is a huge state, so we need to spend a lot of money to govern this state. If you look at what percentage of the state is owned by the federal government and actually what percentage of the state has ever been inhabited by human beings, it changes the numbers dramatically. By my calculations, we're spending about $3.8 million to govern 1 square mile, which is by far the highest in the country. we're making California look prudent by this measure. A little over $3 million per square mile in California for state government. We're spending $3.8 million per square mile. It's ridiculous. I want to point out another thing. The only people in Alaska that seem to really want a massive government are the people who work for the government. The people out here working hard, labor jobs, running businesses, etc. We're all here because we want to live in a state that has a very small government. So it's self-perpetuating. I would wager to say that the bulk of the very high-paying jobs in this state go to people who are not, who did not grow up in Alaska. I guarantee you that's the case. So it's a recruitment for like minds to grow a massive government on the backs of people who don't want it. We don't want a large government. I don't know how many times that has to be said in how many different ways for you folks to get it. But anyway, that was basically it. It's ridiculous the amount of money that you guys want to spend per capita on folks in Alaska for comparatively a very small state. It doesn't cost money to govern moose and trees.
Thank you, Dustin, for your testimony. We're going to go to Donald Bullock in Douglas. Mr. Bullock.
Hello, my name is Donald Bullock, and I'm testifying in favor of SB 199 and SB 200. I've been a resident of Alaska since 1955, which obviously is before the oil. But both the permanent fund itself and the permanent fund dividend program recognize the fact that oil and gas are non-renewable resources, and that there's a definite slope where we will have income from them for a while, and then it goes away. After the first lease sale in 1969, the $900 million was quickly spent. The permanent fund dividend was originally intended partly to keep the legislature from spending it all. But times are different. Costs for the government have increased, things like Medicaid expansion. The state does need the money. But one of the things that hasn't been talked about, that I haven't heard, is how much of the permanent fund dividend goes to the federal government, because it's a taxable amount. And finally, the earnings from the permanent fund for the permanent fund dividend are not a dedicated fund, and it's state money under the Alaska Statehood Act, that the earnings from the royalties and mineral leases go to the state to help support the state. So I'm in favor of these two bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. We're going to adjourn till 2:25.
Wow, the cowards called a recess? What's going on? Do they not like the testimony that they're receiving right now? Not liking hearing what from Alaskans, real Alaskans, about how they feel about the theft? Simply amazing. I just can't believe what they're trying to get away with. It just makes me shake my head. This bill right here is one of the most corrupt things I've seen come forward in a long time. And it's just an upgraded version of Von Himhoff's Aurora bill. If you go back and look at that step-up version of hers, where they created a whole new fund. This is a poison pill being put in. They know it. They had an opportunity in the 4th special session to bring up SJR 6, the only bill that Alaskans were, most of us anyways, were behind and supported. Otherwise, the statutory PFD law was the only other alternative that we would stand 100% behind. And they failed to bring anything up. They spent the entire 4th special session, didn't have one single committee meeting hearing on anything. Not a single thing. Yet they want to make it look like they're doing their jobs now, here, back in regular session, when they had their opportunity back then. No, you can see the entire intent behind what they're doing is to do nothing more than steal our Alaskans' permanent fund dividend out of our pockets to keep the ever-growing budgets of these special interests well-funded. No surprise that Senator Natasha von Imhoff's family business is a very big benefactor of both of our state, local, and federal government for the money that they receive in the form in the last 2 years, not just millions, but billions. Any guess why she's not running again this next season? Take a lucky guess. You might come up with the right answer. I wish I could stick around with you all here today and continue to keep watching this with you and enjoying the show, but I do got to get moving on to head to work and go make myself some real money. If you could, go to my website, Politadick.com, click the support button. All proceeds go right back into making sure I can continue to keep live streaming more of these. Instead of having to go to work to earn a living, I could be able to be here and doing this, or making more events and making sure they're streamed so the public can see it unfiltered, uncensored, and without the political spin, because you get to hear it straight out of the horse's mouth, straight from them. I'm going to keep this going. I do got someone that's going to shut the stream down here later if they do get back in. They were supposed to go all solid up until 2:30. My guess is they ran out of callers. So if you haven't called in, this is your last opportunity right now to pick up that telephone and call them. Call them now and make sure to let them know exactly how you feel about the theft that they are perpetuating down there in Juneau. The outright ignoring of our statutory PFD law. They could easily cut $130 million this year off of the state and capital budget just by following the laws that they have. One of them is the student-based allocation. They reported 10% less students going to school than what they had projected for the school year. That means they should be receiving a 10% budget cut. That's roughly $130 million. Their budget this past year was $1.3 billion, and this doesn't include all the COVID funds that they received. You add that into the total, and we're over $2 billion, almost $3 billion that's been handed to our school districts in just the past year. Wake up, Alaskans. This is just nothing more than a con job, snowball job. They made more revenue this year than they know how to spend. That covers 100% from the taxes they've received to pay for an entire budget this year. They don't need their crafted, manipulative SB 26 law, the one that, gives them that 5% POMV draw. That law could basically be ignored, like they do with our statutory PFD law. But they could ignore that law this year because they don't need one penny of our permanent fund dividends or any money from the earnings reserve account to pay for this year's budget. But they don't want you to know that. Bert Stedman there, the day that the governor had come out and give the state of the address and his future of what the budget of Alaska and the state will look like, Bert Stedman made it very clear that the governor's agenda was not his agenda. He was more concerned about all that federal money that had come rolling into our state and making sure that got spent and distributed to who knows no else than the ones that he represents. not Alaskans, not real Alaskans that I would classify it, but those who profit off of the state and capital budget every year, our local government's budget from our municipalities that we have, like Anchorage and the Rasmussen Foundation, and all the money they received for homelessness was a big one that hit the books this year that was really easy to track where that money came from. They received from the state, they received from Anchorage, they received from every municipality around out there, big, large checks coming straight out of their budgets that went directly to them, not including the federal funds that went directly to all the profit for non-profit organizations for distribution throughout the places. There's a reason why Imhoff lives in a multi-million-dollar house on a property that no Alaskan could ever afford and has that trust fund that just makes her look like, why is she even in office in the first place? Well, the reason she's there is to make sure, because she sits on the Senate Finance Committee, that all the money that the state budget is going to have inside of it helps benefit the people that she actually truly represents. And it's not the constituents that she's supposed to have been voted by, but by those that live in her district that want to make sure big government spending does not end, that their pocketbooks stay flush, that their piggy banks just continue to keep on growing at the expense of the poorest of Alaska. They came out this year and announced how many people in Alaska are now living on welfare of one form or another. Would it shock you to find out it's almost 40%? 40% of Alaskans are now living on welfare. It is unbelievable when you know that 40% of Alaskans are currently trying to survive out there, and they have to collect government welfare to be able to do it. They're not living on their own. We were less than 1/3 of our population when the pandemic hit. Now we're almost at 40%, a good 10% growth in the poverty level in Alaska. And they think stealing more of our permanent fund dividend to keep the bloated government well funded is more important than lifting these Alaskans back out of poverty again. Imagine if they paid back the $13,500, $14,000 that they've stolen from us already and gave us our $3,800+ statutory PFD this year. How many of those 40% of Alaskans that are living in poverty will be instantly lifted directly out of poverty? That dream house that they've always wanted, guess what? They've now got it over halfway paid off, and a payment every single month that is half of what they were paying for rent. Half of what they were paying for rent, because they were finally able to get a big enough nest egg to deposit at one time. If you're a family of 4 and you were to receive your statutory PFD and the theft of everything they've taken, they would instantly find themselves with enough of a down payment to buy a house, buy that dream car that they've always wanted instead of the one that keeps breaking down every other week, costing them $300-400 a month in mechanical bills, just trying to keep the damn thing running because they can never build up enough to afford to even purchase a better running vehicle. This is what our government wants to make sure happens. They want to shove as many of us as they can into poverty so that they got justification to keep raising that money up and making sure that we are paying it all out of our pockets to give to them, to give to the minority. And who is the minority? Well, you got Alaska AFL-CIO, the unions, you got the Siri corporations, you got groups like Save Anchorage, you got the Ship Creek Group, you got the Rasmussen Foundation. Should I go on? I mean, the list is endless out there when you look at who the minority is, the special interests that are profiting off of the state and capital and local budgets every single year. It's a very small group of Alaskans, and it doesn't represent the majority of us. Sadly, though, those are who go out and vote every year. That's the reason why we got people like Imhoff in office. We have people like Stedman there in office. We had people like Wilson in office. I mean, Wilson he's all about healthcare, and he's openly admitted on tape, recorded at a town hall that they had, well, not, it was a debate that they had between candidates, openly admitted that he is more than willing to be feasting at that table, which he sits at the feasting table, Senate Finance Committee, then collecting the scraps on the side that are given to the rest of the majority of Alaskans. That's his viewpoint in life. It's clearly documented. Imhoff thinks we're all peasants. How dare you? You greedy people. You are all so greedy. How dare you? How dare you? My father is dying right now, and you just don't care. You just don't care. The greed. This is from somebody that receives over $1 million a year from her profit for nonprofit organizer, whatever, Rasmussen Foundation, and thinks that her trust fund, this trust fund baby, doesn't understand what it ever means to actually live in poverty, to live paycheck to paycheck, to struggle to try to pay your bills, struggle to try to keep your house warm during the winter, keep that fuel oil inside that tank, keep the firewood piled up outside, making sure on years like this that we've got plow trucks that can actually plow our roads and plow our driveways just so we can get in and out to be able to go to work. They just don't care. So what are we going to do now? Where do we stand at? Are they adjourned because there's just nobody else that's called in? I have a hard time believing that. I mean, this thing is supposed to go taking phone calls up until 2:30, and then after that, anybody that doesn't call in is not going to be able to give testimony. So is it all finished? Is that why they're silent there in the background, just kind of milling around? You can see the clicks, how they work. You can see who's talking to who and who's represented inside of the room. I mean, it just doesn't end, the theft that goes on down there. The Senate Finance Committee, the House Finance Committee, they are the ones who produce the final budget that they vote on every single year. These two committees in the House and the Senate Finance, those who sit on them, which you see represented here in the room, Imhoff, Stedman, Wilson, Olson, I mean, the list just endless, Rolikowski there, Begage, they all have their own internal agenda of what, and it's not for the majority of Alaskans. It is for the special interests they represent. The ones that I was naming off earlier, the unions, the nonprofits, healthcare. I mean, we were at $3.6 billion in healthcare costs here in Alaska pre-pandemic. I can only imagine what the healthcare costs have actually been for the last 2 years. They refuse to give those numbers. They want to keep those numbers hidden. I haven't seen any outlet yet that expose what they are. Maybe if we sit in on the 5:30 meeting of the Department of Revenue today to find out how much money they actually have to spend, we'll know exactly where things stand at. But it's just hard to say. It looks like they're about ready to get restarted here again. It's hard. It kind of looks that way. They're kind of milling back towards the desk. I could be wrong. Oh, no. Imhoff, look at her. She's got her mask completely pulled down there in the Capitol, and with no hesitancy, she's got it pulled down. And they are mandatory to have your mask on 24/7. 24/7 you're to have your mask on. And there's Imhoff right there without her mask pulled up all the way over. What a hypocrisy. This is a person that advocates that you are to follow the laws that we say you are to follow, the mandates that we say you are to follow. And here she is inside the room, outright blatantly ignoring them. The mask still isn't pulled all the way up. It looks like they're going to get back going here, and he's going to gavel in. I'm going to shut up and let him get back to work.
Good afternoon. We're back on the record. Mr. Geldof, I believe we have one person in the room that wants to testify. If you'd remove your cover, please, and come before the committee. And you know the drill.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Cover being a Navy term, I'll take my hat off.
I know you understood that from your years of.
Am I supposed to leave my mask on?
Yes. Please.
Yeah.
Just like church yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Joe Geldof. I live here in Juneau, Alaska, actually West Juneau. My office is in Juneau. I am a board member of the Alaska, the Permanent Fund Defenders. The Permanent Fund Defenders was chaired by Senator Cantulav until his death last year, but the other members of the board consist of Jack Hickle, myself, Juanita Casellas, and Rick Halford. On fairly short notice, I was asked to come up and share a few thoughts, a few brief thoughts, and I understand Senate Bill 200 and Senate Bill 199 is an attempt to fulfill a promise made last year to bring this up, and you're to be commended to do that. Some of the proposals in this bill seem to be technical, related to the Emirata Hess, and the accounting, the need for a separate accounting with the funds that the Permanent Fund Corporation manages for the Mental Health Trust folks. Those are probably well advised. And I'll just briefly say the provision to split on the 25-75% is not something that the Permanent Fund Defenders support. But even more importantly, I don't think it's something that the public in general supports. I could give you my reasons, but this is an enormously contentious issue. Expectations are very high. Whether they're calibrated properly or not is something that you have to deal with as public servants. But the general sense I have is that the public, if they know about the split at all, based on the percentage of market value, the minimum acceptable is 50-50. I will add as I conclude that the permanent fund defenders are extremely wary of the percentage of market value concept. And the reason is if you set the percentage too high, it will almost invariably slow to the point of the corpus in the fund, slow it or even start to erode it. The conversion to a percentage of market value formula really takes what's a trust fund concept and turns it into an annuity. Set the percentage too high, and you have great potential to destroy what is one of Alaska's best ideas for saving ever devised. So we're not alone. The Callan Group has been saying in big, bold letters, cautioning 5% is too high, but I've used my time, and I wish all of you the very best.
Thank you, Mr. Geldof, for your testimony. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to go back online to Teresa Groves in Fairbanks. Teresa, can you hear us? And if you can, put yourself on the record, please. And 2 minutes.
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Teresa Groves. I reside in Fairbanks, but I'm in Alaska as a resident since 1994, and I have a family of 4, and I'm calling in because I'm very concerned about some of our Senate bills and House Bill 259. I would encourage you and entreat you to look past the lobbyists and special interests and hear us, the people who can't quite make it to Juneau, but we so appreciate the opportunity to call in. On behalf of my family, we would request a no vote on Senate Bill 199, no vote on Senate Bill 200, and of course a no to House Bill 259. There's a correlation, as we all know, between education and family income, and this would be a very bad step in the wrong direction to reduce the 25% on that, on the permanent fund dividend. So thank you so much, and I yield my time back.
Thank you for your testimony. Christine Robbins in Fairbanks. Christine, can you hear us? And please put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Hi, yes. My name is Christine Robbins from Fairbanks, and I don't have much to say, but I just wanted to implore you to vote no on SB 199 and SB 200, and of course HB 259 and no as well. We just want the PFD as traditionally calculated prior to 2016. Either support the statutory formula or the governor's formula. Vote no on these. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Laura Bonner in Anchorage. Laura, if you could put yourself on the record in 2 minutes, please.
Hi, my name's Laura Bonner from Anchorage, and I'm speaking for myself, and I've never worked for the state or in education. I actually support SB 200, the 75-25 split for the PFD plan. It provides for a reasonable and sustainable PFD, replaces the decades-old statutory PFD distribution formula that Alaska can no longer afford, so I'm glad to see that. I don't understand SB 199, but it looks like it may be a 50-50 split, and if so, I don't think it's sustainable unless the oil tax structure changes and or broad-based tax is implemented. Services for Alaskans are still needed for public safety, court system, highway maintenance, like snow removal and education, and vulnerable Alaskans, to name a few. So I support the SB 200 with the 75-25 for PFD, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else online or in the room wishing to testify? Seeing none, public testimony is now closed. Any further committee discussion before we set this bill aside for today? Next meeting is tomorrow morning, February 22nd, 9 a.m. On agenda, Sovereign Wealth Funds, Global Trends and Practices by Dr. Milan Reitveld. 9 a.m. We are adjourned at 2:35.
Oh, perfect timing there, folks. It looks like it's ended right at the right moment for me because I have to get out the door. In fact, I'm already 6 minutes late for doing that. So please like and share this video. Alaskans need to hear the testimony of other Alaskans. Excuse me, oh, frog in my throat. And they need to hear the truth about what's going on, how other Alaskans feel about these very corrupt theft bills that they have written and do nothing more than just continue to subvert the law. I mean, they've already proven they don't have to follow the law. They've got 2 of them out there they don't follow right now. I mean, one of them, they've been breaking the law for 20 years, and that's the senior citizens longevity bonus they haven't paid. And but it's still a law on the books. Legally, they're supposed to be funding it, but because they're in control, because they don't have to follow the law, they can do whatever they want. And our seniors got the shaft. My grandma was one of those way back when, and she had to leave the state when that happened because she could no longer afford to live here anymore. And it was a really sad day after she had spent nearly at that point 35 years here in the state. And she came up here after the rest of us had already been here for a long time. I myself has been born and raised. But that money belongs to us. Anybody that knows the history, it belongs to all Alaskans. It's not governments. I mean, they already get 75% off the top before it even gets into the permanent fund dividend account. I mean, to be honest with you, it's really only a 10% split that goes on there. 5% goes to them, 5% goes to us into the actual corpus of the account every year to help it grow. And then the royalties of the 5-year average, that's how they get what we get paid for a dividend checked out of the actual permanent fund account. Thank God the crafters of this bill were smart enough to take the corpus and protect it within the Constitution of our state. Otherwise, they would have completely taken over the PFD a long time ago. They need us Alaskans to vote on being able to touch that corpus account. But that earning reserves account, the one that's got nearly $20 billion in it right now, those folks, they want to keep that money going and flowing and keep that money just right where it's at because they only need a 51% vote in the House, 51% vote in the Senate to steal that money from us. They don't need no more than that. But that's when the 3/4 vote that they need to tap into their piggy bank, the one that's supposed to be like our permanent fund dividend, their permanent fund dividend version of it, the CBR. That CBR, prior to all of this, back in the heydays when they would never, ever think of touching the permanent fund dividend, they had $29 billion inside of that CBR, and they drained it. They drained it fast, and they continued to keep draining it all the way down to where they said, oh, we're never going to cut the fat out of government. We're just going to start taking it from the people instead. And that's when they started dipping into our money that belongs to Alaskans, not them. So if they really want to get technical, the only bill that they have out there is SJR 6. That is the only one that is something that Alaskans will accept. If they do not want to pass SJR 6 and enshrine our PFD within the Constitution so that they can no longer monkey around with it or ignore the law, if they don't want to do that, any bill that does not do that is an outright no from all of us Alaskans, especially these 2 that they were talking and giving testimony on here today. This bill is being fact-tracked. If you read the notes that I had written for this video up on top, you'll see that they're going to already got hearings again later this week where they're going to be taking private testimony. They're paid for actors that'll come in and say, this is how it all works. And I sat through the 2 hours plus that they had earlier listening in as I was working. And amazingly enough, these bills are more corrupt than the HB 259 that was out there. No surprise coming from, who brought these bills forward. They were brought and introduced and sponsored by those sitting in the Senate Finance Committee. That tells you everything you need to know. All right, I'm out of here. I have to head to work. I've got about a 5-hour job ahead of me that I need to go get to, and it's going to be a lengthy one, so I need to get going. And these roads are hell, a lot of snow, very wet, slick, and it's heavy. It's not deep, but it is pretty heavy out there on the ground. Please go to my website, politadick.com, click that donate button. All proceeds go right back into making sure I can make more of these, make it to more town halls, make it to more events. Hopefully be able to get enough money rolling in to where I can start making it into Anchorage on a regular basis and start streaming these assembly meetings that are going on there. I would love to get them all on record. Making it to, say, maybe the school board meetings, and also live streaming them for everybody so that they can see them. That way it's no longer being done behind closed doors that you have to go to a special channel to go find it. You'll be able to find it here on Politadick, at YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. You take your choice, pick your poison of where you want to receive your live feed broadcast from. That's what I'm trying to provide, and unfiltered, uncensored. I'm not going to stop it and not let you hear what's going on like mainstream media will, just so they can push their spin. You guys all have a great day, and make sure to like and share.